Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Early Thursday morning, some massive news coming for the South Carolina Gamecock fans as Georgia State head coach Shawn Elliott leaving the position to join Shane Beamer on the coaching staff as the tight ends coach and running game coordinator. And I know a lot of South Carolina fans have a lot of familiarity with Shawn Elliott during his time at South Carolina under Steve Spurrier. You take a look at this hire, and when I saw this pop up on my phone, I immediately was fired up. And I've checked Twitter, I've checked the message boards, and I see some concerns for some South Carolina fans, and we'll address those. But you take a look at what Shane Beamer wants to do on the offensive side of the football, and I think it starts with getting that run game off the ground, which was absolutely dreadful in 2023. A guy like Shawn Elliott certainly can get that going. He knows how to recruit the state of South Carolina. He knows the program, knows the culture, knows what it looks like for South Carolina to be at peak performance. I'm really excited about this hire. I think it's a massive get for Shane Beamer. And quite frankly, I've been a really big fan of Shane Beamer and the hires that he's made during this offseason as a whole. Want to get into Shawn Elliott, talk a little bit about what he brings to this South Carolina program, talk about why I'm fired up about this move. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it has been a blast talking this coaching carousel, talking new hires, talking additions through the transfer portal. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And as that 2025 recruiting period opens up again, we'll be covering South Carolina, the moves they're making on the recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section on how you're feeling about Shawn Elliott coming back to Columbia. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with, what Shane Beamer wants and what Shane Beamer's goal was when he brought in Shawn Elliott. And that was, we got to get this run game back to where it belongs, back to really where it needs to be. And you look at the run game when Shawn Elliott was working with the offense during his time at South Carolina, you had guys like Mike Davis, Marcus Lattimore, really getting it going on the ground for South Carolina. And you look at South Carolina in that rushing attack in 2023, it was dreadful. And we've talked about this kind of throughout that 2023 year. You will go back, look at the numbers, 2.8 yards per carry. That was 128th in the country. Only 83 rushing yards per game. That was 128th in the country as well. Dead last in a lot of important metrics with that rushing game. And I think it really hurt this team in time of possession. South Carolina really struggled to stay on schedule on offense, run the football, control the football. You take a look at the time of possession numbers, 116th in time of possession. You look at a winning recipe, especially in the SEC. It largely starts with being able to establish the run, and that was something South Carolina really couldn't do in 2023, and it hurt their offense as a whole. We talk about the pass protection woes for that South Carolina team in 2023. I think largely it kind of stemmed from not being able to win on first and second down, forcing this offensive line into too many third and long passing situations where you have elite SEC defensive lines really just teeing off on the South Carolina offensive line. And that was a massive problem in 2023. I think Shane Beamer looks at this program, looks at the steps in the direction it needs to go heading into 2024 and says, hey, it starts with running the football, establishing that run. And a guy like Shawn Elliott is certainly going to help that in a massive way. A couple other things I'm a massive fan of is, one, from a culture standpoint, Shawn Elliott was a very solid football coach for Georgia State, went to 5 bowl games, won 4 of them. That was a program that was always feisty at the group of 5 level. And he was a guy that kind of established that we are going to be tougher than the team on the other side of the football. South Carolina fans, I think you guys know what Shawn Elliott brings to the table in terms of mentality, in terms of culture. And if you don't, just go search. It's Shawn Elliott, James Madison press conference after they lost that game in 2023. This is a guy that is oozing with passion and is a guy that will have his position groups and his players playing for him extremely hard. Now, a couple other things that really stand out to me. We talked about getting that run game going, which is, I think, really a priority for Shane Beamer heading into 2024. Another thing that I think is going to help South Carolina massively. Now, Shawn Elliott coming in as the tight ends coach, there's no doubt in my mind, as that running game coordinator, he's going to have a hand in recruiting that offensive line. And that was a position that we want to see South Carolina start moving in the right direction. And it certainly is, right? Bringing in guys like Cam Pringle, Josiah Thompson in that 2024 class. Shawn Elliott, I think, is going to play a massive role in recruiting the state of South Carolina. And that is something that is massive that we've talked about plenty for South Carolina and Shane Beamer. They've had a lot more success the last couple of years doing that. When you start winning some more of those recruiting battles against teams like Dabo Sweeney and the Clemson Tigers in the state of South Carolina, that is why, and that is kind of something the team or South Carolina as a program really needs to lean on. And Shawn Elliott, obviously a lot of connections to that state, I think is going to be able to help South Carolina maintain that momentum, winning the state of South Carolina on the recruiting trail. Those are a couple things that really fire me up about the move for Shawn Elliott. And I want to take a minute and just talk about what we've seen from Shane Beamer. And this is a coach that, I mean, you talk about culture, you talk about direction of where this team is going. You obviously had some growing pains in 2023 after a very good start to his tenure in South Carolina. And I think what's most impressive for Shane Beamer as a young coach, and you're seeing other coaches really struggle to do this, is kind of taking an in-house evaluation and saying, all right, we had some success. We obviously had some flaws in this roster in 2023. Where do we need to improve? And Shane Beamer is looking at those areas and going out and making changes at the places he does. And you see a lot of other coaches that be their downfall. Now, I think Billy Napier is probably a perfect example of, I mean, and I'm a fan of Billy Napier, but he has some things where he's got some problems within those programs and not necessarily going out and addressing them and thinking they're just going to fix themselves. I think Shane Beamer, as a young head coach, again, is doing a really nice job looking at where this program is, looking at where this program needs to be and what things need to change for South Carolina to continue to make that jump. And I think he's going out and making those changes. And a guy like Shawn Elliott, you talk about established in the trenches, you talk about being good on the offensive line, being able to run the football. He's going to be able to help South Carolina do that. He's going to be able to recruit the state of South Carolina in the high school class. This is one that I think I'm fired up about. You, at the end of the day, just landed an active head coach to come back and coach a position group, at South Carolina. Shawn Elliott, a coach that I am a massive fan of, I have a ton of respect for, coming back and working with Shane Beamer. I think this is a very, very good fit. Excited to see the moves that South Carolina can make on the recruiting trail and also improving that run game heading into 2024. Fired up for this one. We'll see if any Georgia State players decide to follow Shawn Elliott to South Carolina as the transfer portal now open for Georgia State players. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. Wanted to hop on, talk about this one. A very interesting hire, a hire that I quite frankly am very fired up for. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.